answer Bo's questions, and he answered mine.
Cael Sanderson.
Cael, there was plenty of questions whether you had enough gas.
Most people in the wrestling community think that Cael is very stoic, and he can be.
Was there any doubt in this team after the Big Tens?
Do you want me to say yes?
The dude's funny. For real, he is one of the most sarcastic people.
So what do you need to work on heading into the Big Ten tournament?
Wrestling, just wrestling.
And just this beautifully dry kind of sense of humor.
Is it even possible to replace Ed Ruth and David Taylor?
Not unless we can get another year out of them, you know. And we're exhausting all means. I mean, we're looking into every possible way to make that happen.
Cael is extremely secretive.
What adjustments did you make, if any?
Control.
I don't want to say paranoid, but I kind of want to say paranoid.
Is it 100% that you won't pull any red shirts remaining this year?
Pull a red shirt? What does that mean?
Yeah, so you got Nico, Zain, Nolf, Neville's, and...
What do you think? You got a plan or something? Or?
Before I got the job with Flo, I sent a couple athletes to Penn State, and so I was in the room quite a bit, and he and I would have open dialogues about technique. That does not happen anymore. I was at an event. I was leaning on the guardrail, and he was leaning on the guardrail on the other side, and I remember saying something along the lines of, well, yeah, that's how you guys warm up, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, yes, you do. I'm sure you do, because I've seen you do it. He's like, nope, you're the enemy. You can't, you know. And he was, again, sarcasm, but there was a good amount of seriousness in that too. Like he didn't want me to remember the thing that I remember.
You had the big guns last year. This year, it's a little different look. How's it been, that adjusting maybe your coaching philosophy, or has there been one?
Oh, you got to get the points where you can get them, and our team did that the last 2 days. We lost some matches we probably didn't need to lose, but it's still early in the season, and we've got a lot of time to improve.
So, going into the 2014-2015 season, Penn State had won 4 straight NCAA titles, anchored by the performances of Ed Ruth and David Taylor. And so coming into the 2014-2015 season, they decided to redshirt a number of their best wrestlers. Zain, Nico, Bo Nickal, Jason Nolf. All those guys will go on to win NCAA titles in the future, multiple NCAA titles.
The count, he got a 2 count. Huge tilt for Jimmy Gourban.
Penn State clearly didn't put all their chips on the table. It was a lineup that would need a miracle to win an NCAA title, and they didn't finish in the top 5.
Oh boy, McIntosh in on the legs of Jaden Cox.
Cael opted to hold back some resources from that team, and as a result now, in hindsight, it feels like he maybe saw this legacy thing coming, right? Saw that maybe you sacrificed a title in 2015, so you win 4 more after that.
It kind of shows how important long-term success is to Cael. Looking down the line and going, well, might not be great this year, but man, it'll set us up for a bit.
One thing Cael has done a masterful job is how he constructs his lineup and when he wrestles guys and when he doesn't wrestle guys.
It's no surprise that Cael's transcendent guys, David Taylor, Ed Ruth, Zain Retherford, Jason Nolf, Bo Nickal, Mark Hall, and Vincenzo Joseph, they have only ever wrestled on NCAA championship teams.
Retherford's gonna win the match. The young freshman just keeps chugging along.
How's the transition into college?
It's awesome. I like the competition. I love competing, so it's the same that way, but just a lot more physical, a lot more mental, I think, but It's exciting.
I've seen Zain Retherford since I've been working camps, since he was 103 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in his pockets. So when he got put out there as a true freshman, I thought he'd be fine.
Retherford continuing just to attack, taking ground.
The #1 moment where you're like, okay, Zain is not just a good freshman wrestler. He's special. So when he beat Logan Stieber, who at that point was a 2-time NCAA champion, who was as dominant a wrestler as we had in college wrestling. On December 13th, 2013, I wrote this about the Logan Stieber, Zain Retherford matchup. I don't care how good a true freshman the kid is, he's not ready for Logan. Logan is going to overwhelm him physically and technically. My final sentence here, I will say I'd be pretty surprised if Logan didn't bonus. And freaking Zain beat him. And you're like, oh my gosh, they've got another one. They've got another uber elite talent. And the crazy part about Zain is the jump he would make from his true freshman to his redshirt sophomore year was as big a jump as we'd seen. And Zain was so great as a true freshman as well.
If there's a meaner guy on top in this tournament, I haven't seen it.
I love to be on top. It's a dominant position, so anytime I can get there, I'll try to get there.
Zain Retherford's style was tenacious. He's in your face. He's constantly attacking. He would overwhelm guys is the word. Guys would not be able to last for 7 minutes with him.
Retherford's gonna get the fall here if he can keep him there, and he's got it, and there's the fall for Zain Retherford.
He had an unprecedented bonus rate of tech falls and pins. He was flattening dudes out. He hit this brutal bow and arrow where he'd grab the foot and take the guy over. So he had a lot of different turns, but he administered a lot of pain on the mat.
It's always a test, every time you step out on that mat, so you gotta be ready and test your willpower, test your focus, test how much you want it.
Goodness gracious, Zain Retherford. Methodical destruction. Zain was the best wrestler in college wrestling for 3 straight years. That's something you just don't see very often, where a guy is kind of unquestionably the most dominant guy, scoring the most points. It's like you don't even talk about 149 pounds. There's no point in discussing it. Zain's going to win. Next topic, let's talk about something else. That's how Zain was regarded.
Time expires. Retherford, a champion for the 3rd time.
One of the best ever. Zain Retherford had the Zain train going for 3 straight years, and incredible ambassador for the sport, and a great accomplishment as a 3-timer.
Yo, it's Mike. We're behind the dirt again, and Jason Nolf threw everybody's head in a whirl a couple weeks ago at the Keystone, and he did it by doing a forward roll out of a double leg. Or do you, what? I don't think that there's a Penn State wrestling style. You can't have a Penn State practice if you're at Iowa and say, okay, well, we're just defending this because that's all they do. There's no such thing.
There's not a common stylistic thing, but there are a few things they all do pretty well. They're really good with collar ties. They're really good in scrambles, particularly far ankle scrambles. They're very fluid in their wrestling, right? They can transition from one thing to the next thing. They're not mechanical at all.
And there's a takedown! They constantly attack.
They are incredible at putting up a tremendous amount of points.
What's he doing? Oh, he's got it with a foot, it worked! When you look at the creativity of the individuals on the Penn State team, they seem to find what works for them, and it doesn't have to be inside the box. You see a lot of unique things, you see a lot of innovative things, you see, did he just make it up on the spot?
Oh my goodness, is he gonna pin him in a Jonesy tilt?
Cael, he allows for a tremendous amount of freedom. A lot of coaches were very much, this is our system, and this is what we do, and you don't deviate from this system under any circumstance. That kind of went out the window with Cael because he had a very free-formed system of wrestling. They were going to score points. How? I don't know. You might score points differently than you score points. So I think he kind of opened up a lot of doors that way, and just go figure it out, man.
Now, these are all rumors about how they train, but the practices are not very long. They're not running 10 miles a day. They're not doing all this insane strength and conditioning stuff. They're not having 2 to 3 hour practices. However, they seemingly are the most conditioned guys in the country. They don't get tired. It is extremely rare to see a Penn State wrestler get tired. And to see their guys wrestle with such a high pace and high intensity for that long is really rare. And it maybe speaks to why Cael Sanderson is like, no, you're not gonna see what we're doing. You're not gonna hear about our methods because we do less, what maybe on paper is regarded as less. Our practices aren't as long. Yeah, we're in better shape than everyone. We don't even get tired. So there's something to it, right?
13 wins by fall, as you mentioned, and he's looking for another. Got Wilton in trouble. And Nickal with the pin, 35 seconds for Bo Nickal.
What a treat it is to watch Bo Nickal. Doesn't get better than that.
I'm just gonna be myself out there. You don't really lose until you stop being yourself and you lose your freedom.
If I could kind of put my finger on and exemplify a Penn State style of wrestling, Bo would probably be it. He is dangerous offensively, defensively, upper body, lower body. And you take that, put it in a bottle, throw in a little bit of I don't care, shake it up and spray it on the first person you see. Yeah, he's pretty dangerous.
Now, real beautiful. Oh, double overseas on back. I cannot believe this match.
Bo Nickal comes in and he wins the scuffle and then immediately shoots to the top of the rankings and enters the, okay, is this guy gonna be another Penn State wrestler that can make multiple NCAA finals? And that's what Bo Nickal wound up being.
And he goes right to it! He puts him on his back!
Bo was on a tear as a sophomore, getting pins and techs and utterly dominant. The prevailing thought was Bo's gonna be in trouble against Gabe Dean. Gabe Dean was likely going to win the Hodge Trophy, and Bo figured it out. He won a very tactical match. So whereas Bo had been destroying everyone, he won a chess match against Gabe Dean.
I went on record as saying, like, nobody's beating Gabe Dean, nobody. And Bo beat him, and Bo beat him pretty good. That one surprised me. I was wrong. I was way wrong, way wrong. Bo likes to remind me of that too.
22-0 this season, taking on Brett Perry, 7-12, and Nickal, a quick 2. If you blinked, you missed it.
Yeah, it almost looked like he was going for the pin as he goes after it right here.
And how about that? 11 seconds.
I'm always looking for the fall, looking to try to score some bonus points for my team, but I just go out there and wrestle, and that's the way it went, so, yeah.
Bo Nickal, it was like on certain matches, he just said, time me, and see how fast it takes, because he was pinning dudes routinely in the first period. And in college wrestling, that is not a common occurrence. Even among the elite wrestlers, you gotta tenderize them a little, you gotta beat them for a little while, and then you catch them and you put them over. The thing is, with Bo, there are so many different ways he could do it. There's not like, okay, I won't let him throw me. Well, he'll cradle you. Well, I won't let him cradle me. Well, he'll do this thing. He's just got a different answer and a different pinning maneuver for all these different situations. And it manifested himself with him getting tons of first period pinfalls.
And Bo Nickal joins an elite group. He's a Penn State 3-timer.
We're now joined by 157-pound national champion Jason Nolf of Penn State. We'll take an opening statement from Jason, and then questions, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited, as you can tell by my face.
Rubio looking to go behind, but ends up with his leg a little high. Nolf is gonna get 2.
Nolf jumped on the scene his true freshman year where he was in redshirt. He entered the Southern Scuffle and he beat Brian Real Buto of Cornell. And that's when everyone was like, okay, here we go again. Is this the next guy? And he was one of the next guys for Penn State. So coming into the next year, you kind of knew Nolf's gonna be a factor in the NCAA title race. But you've got Isaiah Martinez, who was coming in. He was an undefeated NCAA champion.
Nolf cuts around and he's gonna get 2.
I can remember watching it and freaking out that anyone could do that to Aymar. Aymar was just this gorilla, dude. I mean, he was just this dude that would come in with hooks and throw people around. And to consider that anyone would do that to him, especially Jason Nolf, who is fairly unassuming. He's a lot like Cael in that he doesn't say a whole heck of a lot. It was just amazing to watch the confidence that kid went out there with.
Near ball on here. He's holding him down, put his hips on him. Big, he's holding him. This is playtime, and there's the ball.
When he beat Imar was the moment you're like, okay, this is a 4-time finalist type of dude. This is a guy who's going to win multiple NCAA titles. It was that match that launched him definitively into that strata.
Undefeated first loss for Zain Martinez's college career.
Oh, lefty headlock, he ripped it off. Getting swipes, he's close, looking for the fall.
He just headlocked him, pulled him up from his knees, and headlocked him.
Oh my gracious, that's tight. There it is, another pinfall for Penn State. This one happening in just 51 seconds for Jason Nolf.
And he almost got a smirk out of Coach Sanderson. There it is.
Make him wow, put him right on his back. What a move, how did you do that?
Jason Nolf fits into the Penn State mold in that he's not really a mold at all. He's a completely unique wrestler. He would throw a headlock every now and again. He would do a front flip to counter a double leg. He would shoot all the time. When he was better than a guy, it was like a cat playing with a mouse. Just kind of messing with it. You know, am I gonna let you up? Maybe I'll just grab your ankles. Maybe I'll just shove you off. Maybe I'll trip you, whatever. You didn't know whether he was coming or going. He was just totally all over the place. A really unique style.
Now single leg draped over the top, looking far ankle. See a little more Penn State far ankle magic. Oh, he's got him. Danger rule, start counting. So they get 2, and now here comes the near fall points. That's a 6-pointer that Paul Fox never has seen in his life.
Earlier today, that semifinal, the time you put him on the back twice, what do you call that move?
A secret move.
A secret move, okay. But is there anything, okay, in other words, you don't want to give away your secret, it's how you're doing it, is that right?
Yeah.
I've been on record saying that there's nothing new in wrestling. Well, guess what I was wrong. Because then he goes out and hits this Winn-Dixie thing. So, yeah, innovative, yeah, the dude's unreal. The dude's unreal.
No bounds. He is a 3-time NCAA champion.
You Penn State guys are quiet, you're appreciative, you're humble, but you're like mean as shit out on the mat, and that's something that I've noticed.
I'm not that mean.
Vincenzo Joseph, he's another guy that's, you know, one of these Pennsylvania studs that was really good in high school and just took off in college.
Inside trip, oh my goodness.
Vincenzo had this swagger, he just had this confidence.
Body lock on the side.
Vincenzo Joseph was fearless. He was not worried at all about upper body ties. He could throw people from anywhere, and you never knew what might happen in a Vincenzo Joseph match.
Have I ever been on a team like this?
Yeah.
Absolutely not, no. My team in high school, we'd be lucky to qualify 2 guys to the state tournament, so, you know, it's a completely different atmosphere for me, and I love it.
He started as a freshman with a few losses. He looked like he was going to be a good but not great part of the Penn State legacy. And then all of a sudden,
Oh, he's got him!
he beats Zain Martinez in NCAA finals, a guy who had beaten him a couple times before, and he puts himself on the map as a guy that could be another part of this huge Penn State legacy.
NCAA champion Vincenzo Joseph, how's that sound to you?
It's pretty cool. You know, like I said, I'm just really, really thankful to be here right now.
Fast forward to his sophomore year, he has Imar again in the finals, and there's no way he can do it twice.
Toe drag, there's 2.
And he does. He beats Zain Martinez again in the NCAA finals. Just proved that when the lights were on, this guy was gonna be ready. This guy could execute at an incredibly high level in moments that you didn't think he was gonna win.
Last year, a shocker as a freshman, winning by fall, and this year surprises no one. Vincenzo Joseph.
7th grader who is making history. He's not just wrestling varsity. He's currently ranked 1st in the state.
Wrestling to me means more than life. It means your friends,
your family, even your enemies.
Flow Films did a piece on Mark when he was just a baby. I think we called it the prodigy. I don't know, that kind of says it all, doesn't it? I mean, we knew.
And unbelievable air in the way, and Mark Hall hits him with a submit chop.
This was a guy we saw coming for years. He's a 6-time state champion. The only person to ever do that, I believe. He won multiple world titles at the age level. He was a cadet world champion, he was a junior world champion. He'd accomplished all these things. He was #1. So Mark Hall was beating college wrestlers in high school. So there wasn't a guess, how will he translate? No, it's going to translate. Mark Hall is going to continue to be a really, really good wrestler. And that's exactly what happened at Penn State. One of the big storylines coming into the 2016-2017 season was, will Penn State use Mark Hall this year? It was a huge question, and up until January, they had left Mark Hall in redshirt. And they didn't pull him out. His first varsity match with the Penn State singlet was at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Talk about getting carvered, you could say that Mark Hall was carvered because he lost to Alex Meyer. Alex Meyer was a good wrestler, but not someone you would expect Mark Hall to lose to. So it was a huge moment. Even though Mark Hall lost his first varsity match for Penn State, it was a great chess move by Penn State to use Mark Hall that season because they needed him, and he would go on to be an NCAA champion, so he was clearly ready.
Up until that point, there really weren't too many, if any at all, bad decisions, I guess you'd say, by Cael Sanderson as the head coach of Penn State. Every decision that he made pretty much turned to gold. And now you see him pull Mark's shirt. He goes into Carver Hawkeye, gets carvered, loses, and then you go, oh no, is this a long line of what's now going to be poor decisions by Cael? Nope, wound up being just fine. The confidence in which he does these things is amazing. A lot of people would have second-guessed a lot of different things given that scenario and the result. Not Cael, not Cael.
Losing at Iowa, there were more lessons learned than my previous 5 or 6 years of wrestling.
As they nail in the coffin, true freshman Mark Hall steals it against Bo Jordan.
Mark Hall was very crafty. He had a lot of ways to win.
The year that he won an NCAA title, I went back and looked at that entire tournament. He didn't use the same takedown twice. He didn't use the same takedown in any of his matches in the NCAA tournament. I've never seen it. So his style, good luck. I mean, good luck.
At the end of the day, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's about the size of fighting the dog.
The stakes couldn't be higher in this moment. Nickal's keeping that far ankle. We're scrambling around. 6 seconds to go. Can Bo Nickal do it? He's in position. Bo Nickal's done it. Bo Nickal takes out undefeated Gabe Dean. Penn State goes 5 for 5.
Well, you guys just won 5 in a row, 5 straight weight classes. Could you talk a little bit about the quality of the guys in those weights and just how you feel, work together to get to that? I can't remember 5 in a row for at least a while.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good, so.
2017 was the year that Penn State won 5 individual national titles.
For them to win 5 straight NCAA titles from 149 all the way up to 184 was incredible. And once that final session got rolling, it just felt like Penn State couldn't lose. And they just pulled off incredible win after incredible win. And it felt like they were unstoppable. There was nothing anybody in the world could do to stop that team.
That was when they really jumped another echelon into perception, because not only had Penn State done 4 in a row, they did another back-to-back year, but they had this new generation of dominant studs.
They had half the national champions, like half of them. Like, if the NCAA Finals was a dual meet, they would have won against the rest of the country. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid. It's like, it doesn't happen at that level. It doesn't happen often.
There just clears the ties, switches right to the double.
I can remember watching that and coming to the realization that Penn State was not competing with the team across from them. They were competing with themselves. When you saw Murderer's Row come up, when it was Zain, Nolf, Vincenzo, Bo, the person in front of them didn't matter. They were competing with one another. Haha, look what I did. Bet you can't do that.
Underhooks now, and he goes right to it. He puts him on his back.
They were so much better. They were just like, all right, oh, Mark got the pin in 1:30. Bo Nickal's gonna come out, he'll get a pin in 14 seconds. This guy's getting a pin with a headlock, all right, I'll get a pin with a headlock.
They're doing the equivalent of what like frat boys do. Like, hold my beer, bet you can't do this. Like, that was what they were doing on a wrestling mat. To other athletes. You give me that team against any team in history, I can't imagine many people beating them.
Ohio State tweeted this. This was their finishes at Big Tens. First, second, first, third, second, qualified, third, second, first. Unbelievable. At Big Tens.
At Big Tens.
Unbelievable.
Nickal in position to score now.
So going into Bo Nickal's junior year was the greatest team race in NCAA history. It was unbelievable because you have two of the greatest teams of all time, and they happened to be wrestling at the same year at the same time. Ohio State was incredible. They would have won so many different years, but this was not their year. And it all came down to Bo Nickal versus Miles Martin, and these two have been connected back through Miles' freshman year. The winner of the Miles-Bo Nickal match would win NCAAs for their team. So it came down to this. And Miles hits a double leg on Bo. He puts him on his back. Miles is getting near fall. He's gonna be up like 4-0. And Bo hits this crazy counter, you could call it kind of a junior high move. It's not orthodox, but Bo does a lot of not orthodox things.
Looking to finish, and he does! Nickal with the championship for himself and for the Nittany Lions!
Bo Nickal's pin over Miles Martin is the most iconic pin, iconic NCAA final ever. It wasn't just that it was to win an NCAA title. It was to win an NCAA title for your team against the team of the guy you're wrestling against. You can't use a word other than iconic. One thing Cael Sanderson has done a masterful job is like how he constructs his lineup and when he wrestles guys and when he doesn't wrestle guys. Anytime you wrestle a true freshman, there's a level of scrutiny, like, are you sure this kid's ready? Like, you don't really know how he's gonna do necessarily. And you think through the years, they wrestled Nico as a true freshman. He made the NCAA finals. They wrestled Nick Soriano as a true freshman. He beat the 1 and 2. They wrestled Mark Hall as a true freshman. He was an NCAA champion. They wrestled Zain Retherford as a true freshman. He beats Logan Stieber and places 4th. They wrestled Aaron Brooks as a true freshman. He goes on to win Big Tens. So he has a very good sense of what he's got in the room. And when he wrestles a true freshman, you should take notice because they often produce at a really high level.
I'd like to take you back to the 2014-15 season. That was the year that you redshirted both, these guys plus, Mac Lotus and Zain. Did you need that year for this year to happen? Because a lot of people said, why did you redshirt those guys to end a streak?
I don't know. That was the thought, and it worked out. You look back and you think, well, if we would have done this or done that, maybe we could have won that year. So I mean, who knows? I don't know. It was able to help create a wave, to roll through, and now the exciting part is creating another wave. I mean, that's what it's all about.
For the 2014-15 season, the year they didn't win, that's what set up their next run. So they redshirted all these hammers for this one season, knowing that if we do this now, our team is going to be set up for the next 4 or 5 years. And it played out perfectly because Zain jumped incredible levels from his true freshman season to his redshirt sophomore season. He went from good to uber elite and maybe one of the best wrestlers in college wrestling. I think it's an ultimate credit to Cael that he said, you know what, yeah, we could get 5 in a row, which is an insane thing to do. But instead he said, you know what, for these guys' individual development and for the betterment of the team's future, we're gonna take this 1 year and just get a whole lot better, and then we'll see you next year and see what's up. So Cael Sanderson will look at the bigger picture and not try to chase the same thing every year. And that sort of approach to how he builds his lineup is part of why he was able to win 8 and 9 years.
Penn State recruiting during the Cael Sanderson era has been so impressive. They are regularly bringing in top 5, top 10 recruiting classes. David Taylor won the Hodge a couple times. Zain Retherford has a couple Hodge trophies. Bo Nickal won the Hodge. They've got guys that haven't won the Hodge that are on the list of the best guys to never win the Hodge. Ed Ruth never won a Hodge trophy. Jason Nolf never won a Hodge trophy, and those are some of the most dominant wrestlers in the history of wrestling, but they couldn't win the Hodge because their teammates were beating them.
The fun way to minimize what Penn State does is to say, well, of course they win, it's because they have all the great wrestlers. Well, I think you can't say that anymore. Yes, they do recruit well, but you're seeing multiple transcendent performances. So it's not just that they go in and they win, it's how they win. They are unquestionably amplified, right? It's indisputable that they reach their full potential. And Jason Nolf and Bo Nickal and Zain Retherford and Ed Ruth, Vincenzo, no one was saying 4-time finalists, 3-time NCAA champions. These are guys that were winning close high school matches against high school wrestlers. And then in 2 years, they're beating returning NCAA champions. There's another level that they're finding at Penn State that very few other schools are experiencing.
You know, I think about a guy like Anthony Cassar, who in the recruiting class rankings doesn't have a number next to his name because he was not one of the top 100 recruits in the country, right? He was just a pretty good guy from New Jersey. A few years later, he's an NCAA champion.
Because everyone in the country wants to say, oh, well, they have the most money and they can recruit whoever they want and, you know, kind of reload and reload and reload. Yeah, well, guess what? There have been teams that have done that in the past and they've squandered #1 recruiting classes. It takes a lot to develop athletes. Your job isn't just done once you get them in the door. You got to develop athletes, and that's one of the things that's so scary about Penn State is that they're developing athletes.
Another reason Penn State's been able to develop such successful athletes and teams is that Cael has been able to assemble and then maintain continuity across the entire time he's been at Penn State with the same 3 main coaches. Cody Sanderson, Casey Cunningham, and Cael, all 3 of these are guys who could be head coaches almost any program they wanted in the whole country.
Amazing Division I wrestling we had this weekend. Cael Sanderson will set his team up for another run. That's what he did in the 2014-15 season, right? He set himself up for a 4-peat that they just had. Mm-hmm. Were they able to beat his team as good as Iowa is right now is the question.
Fans fighting, that's gonna do it. There's the fall.
So coming into this year, Penn State was the favorite on paper. Everyone picked them in the preseason to win.
Oh, shoulder.
Anthony Cassar was a returning NCAA champion, and his shoulder comes out at the Olympic Trials qualifier, and he's done for the year. You're a returning NCAA champion, boom, done for the year. And then you've got Brady Berge, he gets hurt, and he's basically never the same. Between the injuries, and then Iowa just being incredible this year. And Michael Kimmer beats Mark Hall in the duel. That was unbelievable. And Alex Marinelli's looking great. So everyone was wrestling at their best, and the script had really flipped from where people coming into the year thought Penn State would win, and then Iowa was the prohibitive favorite coming into NCAAs.
Wow, what a duel. Big Tone steals it for Iowa, 19-17.
We are having an emergency FRL. The NCAA tournament is done. The NCAA just released the statement now.
This year was different because it wasn't a foregone conclusion that they were going to win. But they didn't lose. I mean, yeah, they lost to dual meet, so what?
We could have had 5 champs this year. We could have won. I mean, would it be hard to do? Like, absolutely, yeah. But like I think we'd get it done. We'd find a way.
It would have been a long shot for Penn State to win a 5th title in a row and their 9th in 10 years. But you will never know, right? We'll never know for sure. But it's just another one of those highly improbable, unlikely things that contributes to a little bit of the mystique of Penn State, that like even a year when Iowa is so much better and they are suffering the loss of an NCAA champion, they can't be beat, right? I mean, like, they can't be beat. It's bizarre.
What are your emotions right now? You've been wanting this for a while.
You can say that again if you want.
You've been wanting this for a while.
I've wanted this for a long time. I'm a world champion, and it feels really good.
After college, a lot of Penn State wrestlers have had great success. David Taylor's gone on to win a world title in 2018. Ed Ruth made a world team. Zain Retherford made a world team. Frank Molinaro made the 2016 Olympic team and got 5th at the Olympics. So Penn State wrestlers have gone on to have strong international results after finishing their college careers. I think one of the biggest compliments paid to Penn State is that highly successful international wrestlers are picking up and going there. You've got Cael Snyder, the world and Olympic champion. That guy, after not winning worlds this year, makes the decision, I need to go here. Thomas Gilman, similarly, after winning world silver at Iowa and being kind of the poster boy for the Iowa wrestling program, even he decided, okay, my next move for me to jump levels, I need to go to Penn State to do it.
Their freestyle accomplishments, pretty good. That's not as impressive to me as what is very obviously important to them. And they want the entire Olympic team to consist of Nittany Lion Wrestling Club members. And it is very obvious that they're very serious about that. With the addition of guys like Thomas Gilman, Cael Snyder, and you got guys in the room already like Bo Nickal, David Taylor, Anthony Cassar that are pushing to make the team.
Could 2021's Olympic team have Gilman, Zain, Nolf, David Taylor, Cael Snyder? It's to the point where Penn State almost has a legit contender at every weight for the Olympics, which would be unheard of.
Cael, you know, back in 2011 when you guys won your first title, did you ever envision going on a run like this? Did you think this was in the cards?
I think you just have to believe in what you're doing. I think, you know, we believe that we're going to be successful and win. And, you know, I think, you know, we're not satisfied right now. And, you know, you lay in bed at night each one of these tournaments thinking these are things we can do better. And if we can keep winning, that would be fine with me. But, you know, it's not about winning, right? It's about just getting the best team that we can get and doing the best that we can and just enjoying the experience. You know, our job as coaches is just to support these guys and help them reach their goals.
Since Cael Sanderson came to Penn State in 2009, they have won 8 NCAA titles in 9 years, 4 titles in a row twice. They've had 5 Hodge trophies and countless NCAA champions and All-Americans.
I think in many ways Cael Sanderson is a genius. I think he's a genius as a wrestler. I think he's a genius as a coach.
People are attracted to the fact that he's doing things differently and that it works. People are coming there for Cael Sanderson.